Jeremiah chapter 23, starting a new chapter this week. And Jeremiah is we finished, chapter 22 last week. Where chapter 22 was written in like 609 BC. Okay, chapter 23, 599 BC. So 10 years later. Now, in chapter 22, he'd been preaching about the last three kings of Israel, who were actually descendants of David, and they were the last of David's line of kings of Judah. So now we've got if you will, partly there's a little bit of good news in this chapter, because he is prophesying the restoration of the scattered flock. Okay, now 599. This is the captivity is pretty much going full blast. The Jews are in captivity, and now he's prophesying against the shepherds, if you will, that led them into the mess that they're in, and the previous three kings, Jehoiahaz, Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, they left the nation pretty much in the mess that they're in. And so chapter 23 verse 1, woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, saith the Lord. Destroying the scattering the sheep, destroying the sheep of God's sheep, and woe.
Let's look at the punctuation at the end of that sentence.
Oh, Pastor, the exclamation point.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
says a lot.
Emphasizing. Yeah. My pasture, this is God's pasture, and he is the shepherd. Of course, Jesus is likened unto a shepherd, and our pastor is likened unto a shepherd. And in those days, now apparently, and back there in that time, the shepherds would actually be out leading their flocks rather than behind them pushing them. Follow that? This is kind of and now the couple of times that I ever had any well, of course, Casey had sheep in 4-H and stuff like that, but when I was still working on my rural mail route, there were a couple of times that I got behind a flock of sheep being, being, if you will, driven by the shepherd. The shepherd was at the back of the flock, and he had his dogs and sheep dogs. And this was one time, it was up on Bender Road that this happened. I got behind I don't know where the shepherd was taking his flock, but there were a bunch. There were maybe 100 or so. I don't know. It was a herd. It was a flock of sheep. And he had 3 or 4 dogs, but he was behind them pushing, and he would not let me, if you will, move up to my next mailbox. I had to follow them all the way. you know, along Bender Road up there. But,
I'd like to have been in that car.
yeah, yeah,
You didn't record it, did you, Art?
no, I didn't have it, you know, this was way back when, you know, this was before cell phones, so I didn't have any way of recording it, but I had to push them, okay? So, but here, and in this, you know, pastors here is talking about shepherds, okay? Shepherds either leading their flock or driving their flock, okay? Well, the shepherds here are, if you will, the kings and rulers, those last three kings, and rulers and the priests in the temple who were pushing the flocks away from God. Okay, literally. Therefore, thus, you know, woe to them. That's danger, you know. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, against the pastors that feed my people. Remember, Jehoiakim, instead of feeding his people, he was using his people to, you know, as slave labor to build his magnificent house there, and you know, not feeding them and not paying them, slave labor, but against the pastors that feed the shepherds. Okay, the shepherds are supposed to lead their flocks to, you know, the green pastures beside still waters. Gee, where'd that come from? Ye have scattered my flock. Okay, now the only way that you know, when I was following this one herd of sheep, you know, I could see, you know, some sheep would go off to the side. Of course, you know, along the road, you know, there were fences along the side of the road, but in the places where there were driveways into houses, you know, the sheep would start wandering into the, you know, off to the side into one of somebody's driveway, and the shepherd would have to send his dog after them to, you know, push them back. Okay, so, you know, the flock, you know, kind of scatters, and you know, of course, I didn't get that far to see when they got up to it would be the east end of Bender Road, and where it was Airport Road came down. I don't know what happened. You know, I'm sure the sheep went all over the place up there, and the shepherd would have to get his dogs out. Of course, they were well-trained dogs, but get them out to get the sheep back in line and going in the right direction wherever they were going to the next whichever pasture. But you know, here are these shepherds. You know, they're supposed to be feeding the people. They've scattered his flock. His flock is scattered, and driven them away, and have not visited them. Okay? These guys don't even care. Where that shepherd that I was following, you know, he took care of his flock. You know, he was watching. He was sending his dogs out, and I think there may have been a shepherd up at the front, but I never saw him. But okay, but he was paying attention to them. Well, this is the idea here. Have not visited them. The shepherd, the pastor, is not paying any attention to the flock at all. They're just letting them go, and wherever they're wandering, you know, he doesn't care which idols they may be worshiping. You know, they may be worshiping the same idols that he is worshiping, the king and the pastor. Okay? And that would be mainly the only thing they might even, the pastors, shepherds, might even care about. Oh, are you following the idol that I'm following? Okay, good for you. Go do your thing. And I'm okay, you're okay, we'll all be okay. Well, Jeremiah is warning them over and over and over about this. And now he's telling them, woe be unto you, pastors, and driven them away and not visited. Behold, I will visit, okay? God says, saith the Lord, I will visit upon you. God cares. God is paying attention. He is leading. He is the one that we need to have lead us. Okay? He is our shepherd, our pastor leading us. But hey, you guys, you shepherds, I will visit upon you the evil of your doings, saith the Lord. Okay? They're going to suffer evil. And all three of those kings that we talked about in chapter 22, they did not survive. Okay? Jehoiakim, the middle one. Yeah, I gotta keep them straight. Jehoiakim, the middle one, the one that lasted 11 years, that built his fantastic house. Okay, he died, and pretty much he was thrown in the dump. He did not get a royal burial. He was just thrown in the dump. And the last one, Jehoiachin, yeah. I'm mixing them up. I probably get them all mixed up. Anyway, but only lasted 3 years. He was taken into captivity, and his whole family never returned to Israel at all. They died back there in Babylon, in the Babylonian Empire, and they didn't return. So, okay, you're leading my people into evil ways, evil doings. Well, sorry about that, but you're out of here. You're out of here. You're gone. But here comes verse 3. Oh, Jeremiah finally has a little bit of good news here. Okay? Most of Jeremiah's news is death, destruction, desolation, feast, famine, pestilence, all that sort of good stuff. I will gather the remnant of my flock. There is always a remnant. Always. Of his flock, his people, the Jewish people, out of all countries, wherever they are, he's going to gather my flock, whither I have driven them. God drove them there for this 70 years of captivity. He did drive them there, but he is, the shepherd that leads them. But, in this case, he drove them there and will bring them again to their folds. Bring them back to the green pastures of the nation of Israel, and which is, where they are today. They are been brought back, and they shall be fruitful and increase. Okay? And hasn't that has happened in Israel? Okay? But of course, Israel's still having to fight, and but they will return, and we've got folks like later at the end of the captivity, Ezra, Nehemiah, those folks, they will they were raised up especially by God, okay? And so far as, as far as the earthly throne was concerned, David's throne has temporarily ended, but we've got his spiritual throne will come back, form of Jesus. Driven them, bring them again to their folds, they shall be fruitful and increase, and I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them, and they shall fear no more. Okay? There are, God has shepherds coming, and they'll no more fear. They'll be fed. They'll be, they'll still have problems like they are today, but they'll no fear nor be dismayed. Neither shall they be lacking, saith the Lord. And the nation of Israel today, if you actually kind of stop and think about it, even though it's surrounded by enemies, okay, Israel today is feeding a lot of the people that are their enemies. They're actually, producing enough to feed themselves, and they're feeding even their enemies. Okay? Those folks out there that are, Hamas and Hezbollah and what was Yasser Arafat? What was his group name? Yeah, the PLO. Okay, yeah. They've kind of disappeared, haven't they? Taken over by. Yeah.
Same group, just another name.
Yeah. 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 Think, a lot of times, let's just change the name, and that'll make everything nice and new and fresh and whoopee, right? Anyway, so set up shepherds over them, feed them, neither shall they be lacking, saith the Lord. And we're out of time for today.